I was 4 years older than Anne. But the age difference actually didn't make any difference. It just worked. Well, Anne and I got along so wonderfully. Peculiar because Margot was more my age. But Margot was a very quiet girl, a lovely girl, but she loved to read and she wasn't so playful like Anna. Anna was a wildfire. And so was I. I was very lively. So we got along wonderfully. Anna always, she knew what to play. She had ideas. She was lively. She was cute. And so I got along with her wonderfully. I remember the last time I saw her was before the war, of course, when they visited the last time with us in Switzerland. We were playing in our grandmother's apartment. And I had a puppet theater, and I played something for her. And then she played something for me. I had a crocodile and a grandmother, you know, on a Jack-in-the-Box. And, of course, the crocodile wanted to eat up grandmother, and the Jack-in-the-Box killed the crocodile, and she loved it, you know. And then she had the idea, I remember then she had the idea, she always loved theater. She loved, as you know, probably the world knows, film stars and things like that. So she said, buddy, go to the closet of grandmother and put on a dress of grandmother and a hat and imitate her. Well, that was my first theatrical success I had. She loved it. She laughed very much. These were my last remembrance of Anna personally. I never experienced her in a bad mood or where you can say, oh, come on, Anna, stop it. It never happened. She was always positive in everything she did. I'm sure in the hideout there were many moments, many days where she was subdued or sad or angry, of course. That's a natural way of living. But with me, I only have positive memories of her. Margot was a highly intelligent girl. I mean, Anna was intelligent too, but Margot was always first in school. She was brilliant, and she was studying. Her life actually was studying, learning, reading, much more than Anna. And Anna looked up to her, but that was a little bit of a problem, of course, between the two girls. The always good learning Margot and this lively child, Anna, who had other ideas too, who loved to flirt with boys in school already. The girls were different. And Margot was leaning to Edith's mother, and Anna was Otto's child. So there was a bit of a difference between the two girls. There was great love. They loved each other, of course, but they were different. It was, for Otto, very difficult to keep the peace. Very difficult. He tried it. He always tried it. He was the one everyone turned to. Otto, please do something about it. Otto, please do that. He was the one person who tried to keep peace between all the inhabitants of the annex. He talked about that, of course. Edith and Anna's characters were completely different. Edith was a wonderful mother, but she was very quiet, very reserved, and Anna was a little explosion. Of course, that was already in freedom a bit of a difference, and locked up without any possibility to get out. Of course, this became more and more, and so the difference between those two characters became so strong that the living together with these two became very difficult. I mean, Anna wanted to get out. Anna wanted to be free. Anna wanted to go to school, the girls. And Edith was very quiet, always very Anna, don't do this. Anna, don't do that. You know, she meant well. She meant well, but it was just not in Anna's line or character. So that's where the problems came up. Edith never felt well in Holland. Edith was German, and she missed Germany. She didn't learn Dutch very well. She did not feel at home in Amsterdam. And of course, when she had to go into hiding, this negative feeling just took hold of her and gave her even more problems. Anna was full of ideas, but she had no one really to talk to. I mean, of course, she had a wonderful connection with her father, not so much with her mother. With the other in the secret annex, not very much. But what she really needed was someone she could talk to. Her father, okay, that was good, that worked, but not enough for Anna. She had no girlfriend, for instance. Every young girl must have a girlfriend she could talk to. She had no one really to communicate. Of course, she had Peter later, but that wasn't what she needed. So she developed this great talent for writing because she wanted to get rid of all her thoughts and feelings, and she made Kitty, the diary, her girlfriend. So this developed into this wonderful, deep humanistic book. Many people, through Anna's diary, get the first connection to the Holocaust. They didn't know any before what was the Holocaust. And then they read the diary of Anne Frank, and through that, they learn about the Holocaust, they learn about discrimination, they learn about differences of religion. They get more interested in humanistic questions through Anne Frank's diary. After Otto returned back to Europe, he arrived there again June 3rd in Amsterdam. And he arrived alone. And on the way back, he had heard from an eyewitness that Edith, his wife, had perished in Auschwitz. She just stopped eating the little bread she received. She stopped eating it because she wanted to save it for the children if they would come back. They had been transported to Bergen-Belsen. And that was the most terrible thing for Edith. She lost her mind somehow. She stopped eating and she died of starvation. And Otto heard this on the way back to Europe from an eyewitness. But when he came back to Europe, he had all hopes that his children would come back, Anna and Margot. And for 1 month, he was going to the train station, asking people that came back from the East, have you seen my children? Does anyone know about my children? Until 1 month later, he saw on a little shield that was on a wall where all the people that came back or did not come back were marked. There was all one day Frank, Margot, Frank, Anne with crosses behind it. And you can imagine what that was for Otto. And then he tried to find out if there was anywhere or anyone around that knew anything about the children. And he found a lady in Holland who was with the children during the last weeks of their lives in Bergen-Belsen. And he went there and he rang the bell and asked, have you any news about my children? And this lady had to tell them they are no more. And this lady later on sent him an eyewitness report about the last days of Anna and Margot. I have it, and it's terrible. It's deeply sad. Otto didn't want to publish it. He said, no, why? This is the intimate diary of my child, and who could be interested in it? But then he gave the diary to several of his friends, and they all said, Otto, this has to be published. This is a document that has to be published. And then he remembered Anna's dream. Anna's dream was that something she had written would maybe sometime, somewhere be published. And then he said, okay, I'll have it, I'll see that it gets published. It was tremendously difficult. He didn't find a publisher that was ready to, all the publishers said, a book about the war, no, we're not interested. Until one day, a Dutch historian, name of Romein, has read the diary, and he wrote an article in the biggest Dutch newspaper, Het Parool, and then a publisher came forward and said, okay, I'm interested, but please, not all of it, just excerpts. And then poor Otto had to put it together, the first version of the diary, had to put it together, what would be interesting. He had to eliminate quite a few things. He wanted to eliminate a few things. So that was the first version of the diary, but now, of course, we have the second version where 30% more is in it. Otto made the first translation of the diary for us in Basel in Switzerland into German. And that's where I read, but we all in the family in Basel read it for the first time. And you can imagine I was just as stunned as Otto was. Otto always said I didn't know my daughter until I read her diary. And it was the same with me. I couldn't recognize Anna anymore. Of course, I saw still Anna in it. I mean, her humor, what she writes sometimes, I could see Anna. But on the whole, I mean, the whole book, everything was a new Anna to me. Her humanistic thinking. I mean, for a child to write about that there is always enough money for arms, but never enough for the arts and the poor, where she writes about the strength of men, and nobody writes about the strength of women, what they have to go through. Her deep thoughts were not the thoughts of the child that I knew. They were the thoughts of a grown-up writer. It was the most important thing in Otto's life after Auschwitz. Absolute the most important thing. He published the diary, and he saw what the diary means, especially for young people, and it became his main object in life to further humanistic ideas in the name of his daughter Anne Frank.